Well, happy and holy Hump Day. On one weekend in Lent, we're going to hear the very famous Prodigal Son story. Now, I'm going to read it very quickly because I know you already know the story. But whenever I wave my hand, I want you to be shocked. We're going to pretend that we are the first group of people that ever heard the Prodigal Son story. So you're probably all Jewish, and it's around 30 AD. And Jesus said something very shocking. Actually, he said several shocking things. So when I go like this, I want you to be shocked. You could breathe in like, or maybe you could do something like, oh no, I can't imagine. You could even turn to a student nearby and say, did you hear what I hear? Can you imagine that? But don't take more than just a second because I'm going to be reading really fast, okay? And I'm going to be doing this a lot of time. Ready? Okay. A man had two sons. The younger son said, Father, give me my share of the inheritance. So the father divided the property. The son traveled to a distant country, and here he squandered his money in bad living. When he spent everything, a famine took place, and he was in need. So he hired himself out to someone who had him feed the pigs. The son came to his senses and thought, how many of my father's hired hands have bread to spare, but here I am dying of hunger. I will go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer am worthy to be called your son, so just treat me like one of your hired hands. So the son set out. While he was still far off, his father saw him and ran to hug him. The son tried to ask forgiveness, but his father was already saying, Quick, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger. Put sandals on his feet. And get the fattened calf and kill it, and let's celebrate. The older brother heard the music and dancing and asked about the commotion. He was told his brother was back, and this made him very angry, so much so that he refused to go into the party. His father pleaded, We had to celebrate because this brother was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found. Now, what was so shocking? First of all, it was a very serious insult to the father to ask for his inheritance. I mean, kids, would you ask your parents for half of their money now? It's like saying, Mom and Dad, I wish you were dead, and we'd never do that. Well, he went off, but even before he went off, the father said, okay, here you can have it. Would your parents give you half of their money now? Well, at one point, the son went off, spent all of his money, and so he needed a job. So the only job he could find was to feed the pigs. No Jewish boy would have anything to do with pigs. Jews did not eat pork. They were considered an unclean animal. This was the lowest of the low jobs he could ever have. Well, he came to his senses, so he went home. His father ran to meet him. Well, that doesn't seem very shocking to us. I mean, adults run all the time. I mean, it's good physical fitness. But in their culture, you would never run in public. Can't you just imagine all of these people getting on their cell phones and saying, oh, look out the window. Did you see what I see? Did you see what a man running? I mean, that was shocking. Well, the father ran to him and did several things that were very shocking. The first thing he said is, bring out a robe. No hired hand or slave would wear a robe. The robe meant you are fully reinstated in the family. You are fully my son again. Then he gave him a ring. A ring was like giving him the checkbook. Did you ever see on movies where they'd use some parchment, some deed or contract, and then they'd put some wax, melted wax on there, and then the king would put his ring right on that. That ring was his seal. It said, whatever is on that parchment, you could have. And so now, this kid who squandered half the family's money is now able to use the checkbook. And then they killed the fattened calf. A family could only afford probably one cow or steer, and it was probably being saved up for a wedding. And when you killed a steer or a cow, you'd eat the whole thing. They didn't have refrigerators or freezers or things like that, so the entire village would come and in 1 or 2 meals eat the whole thing. And so, that was a big deal too. But what was the worst of all? The older son did not come in. Can you imagine if your parents have a 25th wedding anniversary and you say, no, I don't want to go, and you don't? How hurt your parents would be. And that's how insulting this son was. He was as bad as the younger brother. Now, what's the point of this story? Why was Jesus shocking us over and over and over again? Well, the Father in this parable represents God our Father. And the Father in the parable does crazy things, shocking things, because of love. And so remember, there's nothing we can do that can make God stop loving us. And God will always keep shocking us with things of happiness, shocks of happiness. And isn't that crazy? That God loves us as much as God does? Completely, infinitely, couldn't even love us anymore. So as Lent gets closer to Holy Week, just spend some time reflecting. God is crazy about me.